YouTube, what is going on? It is your boy Sports Culture, and I'm back with another video here today. And this video is going to be another 7-round mock draft for the Green Bay Packers. And I guess you could consider this one the post-free agency mock draft for the Green Bay Packers for the 2025 NFL Draft class. And there's about 38 to 39 days left until the NFL Draft. So my goal until the NFL Draft is to at least get one mock draft for the Green Bay Packers out at least Monday or Tuesday, all the way till the NFL Draft. So without further ado, man, let's get right into this mock draft. If you're interested in more Packers related videos and draft intel videos and mock drafts, please consider subscribing. But let's get right into this. So here we are, pick 23, and I was going to make a trade down with one of these teams, but there's nobody that wants to make a trade down, or at least a team that would make a good offer for us. So we're going to stay at pick 23. I'm going to go with James Pierce Jr., the edge from Tennessee. I feel like if the Packers still want to get a very disruptive and game-wrecker edge in this year's draft class, James Pierce Jr. has to be that guy. And I know there's a lot of character concerns with him, which would probably take him out as a Packers target in this year's draft class. But I think James Pierce Jr. is worth drafting in this year's draft class. Worth drafting inside the top 15. I think he's still a top 3 edge rusher in this year's draft class. He's somebody who has been productive, has been disruptive at the collegiate level. 6'5", 243 pounds. Still very young at 21 years old. But like I said, he's someone that's been productive and has been disruptive. This year in 2024, 8 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, and 43 hurries and 1 batted pass. The previous year, 13 sacks, 11 hits, 28 hurries, and 1 batted pass. And he's the only edge rusher in this year's draft class to have back-to-back years with a 22+% or 22% and over in pass rush win rate. This year in 2023 or in 2024 at a 23.0. And I want to say last year at like a 22 point something. But definitely over a 22.0, which is the only collegiate edge rusher in this year's draft class to do it in back-to-back years. So he's someone that's very productive. He's someone that wins one-on-ones very fast. And I know he doesn't have that much bend, especially for a guy that's 243 pounds. It's really weird watching this film because you're expecting him to have bend, especially with his frame. But he doesn't. It's just really weird. But he has, in my personal opinion, the fastest quick first step as a edge rusher or as a pass rusher in this year's draft class. So with this pick, we are going with James Pierce Jr. I feel like he's going to be a game wrecker at the next level. Does a really good job at converting speed to power, and does a really good job at just getting to that tackle's outside hip really, really fast and being disruptive. So with this pick, we are going James Pierce Jr., the edge from Tennessee. So I did make a trade back with the New York Giants. I'm giving the picks 54 to 50. In return, we're getting picks 65, 99, and 154. Really not anybody on the board right now that I'm too interested in, so I'm just going to trade back and get more draft picks. I'll get back to you guys at pick 65. So the reason I even traded back was actually so I could get Trey Harris at pick 65. But as you see, the Buffalo Bills want to ruin my plans and select him at pick 62. So it is what it is. I am going to change direction, and we're going to go with a cornerback. And that is Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback for Notre Dame. And he definitely is, or definitely has a red flag over him. He is a smaller cornerback per se, and had the hip injury this year, the hip injury surgery. So there is concerns with him at the next level if he's going to be able to, or if he's going to be an injury-prone cornerback at the next level. But only 21 years old, very, very young. I think this is somebody who maybe doesn't have to start day one for the Packers. I mean, right now on roster at the cornerback position, we got Nate Hobbs, Jair Alexander still in the roster, Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine. We lost Corey Ballantyne to free agency, so we definitely need to add some more depth into that cornerback room. But Benjamin Morrison probably doesn't have to be a day one starter for this team. He could be a guy that could kind of develop with this technique, which I think he kind of does. But I think this is somebody who could be a franchise cornerback if he could stay healthy. He has some elite ball skills, plays way bigger than 6 foot when he's playing coverage on the ball. Has some elite short area, like change of direction and just burst and quickness. One of those guys that could just sit back in like back in zone coverage in the flats and just drive on a football if it's coming near him, pick it and take it to the house just because of his short area distance and just quickness that he has. And I just feel like, yeah, yes, he has a little bit of a red flag on him. Yes, he's a little bit smaller for the cornerback position. Might be a little bit grabby, which is definitely going to get called a lot at the NFL level. But with this team right now for the Packers, especially after signing Nate Hobbs and with relationships between Jair Alexander and the Packers looking better, they don't need a franchise or a franchise cornerback to start right now at the position. They just need somebody that could come in there and be really good depth. And I think Benjamin Morrison is more than just really good depth. This is somebody who has the potential to be an NFL team's, cornerback one. So with this pick, we are going Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback for Notre Dame. So here we are, pick 87. I'm going to go with Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah State. My goal in this video was actually to team up Trey Harris and Jalen Royals and get us a really dynamic wide receiver duo in this draft class. Two guys that I really do like a lot, but obviously that didn't happen. So we're going to go with Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah State. Very explosive with and without the ball in his hands. Very solid route runner in terms of like all three levels, short to intermediate to deep. I think he needs to get a little bit better playing against press. I think there's sometimes he wastes a lot of steps off the line. But besides that, man, very explosive with and without the ball in his hands. Basically, Jaden Reed 2.0, just bigger, more explosive, a little bit thicker, and a little bit more physical with the ball in his hands. So with this pick, we are going with Jalen Royals, who is a much-needed player for this team next year for the Green Bay Packers at that wide receiver room, because we are going to be needing some speed with Christian Watson now. So with this pick, we are going Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah State. So here we are, pick 99, and with this pick, I am going to go with Deon Walker, the defensive lineman from Kentucky. He's not somebody I'm super high on. I think he definitely has his concerns or cons or weaknesses going into this year's draft class, but 6'6", 345 pounds. This team lost T.J. Sladen in free agency to the Bengals. We're going to need somebody that can play that big body A-gap for us, and I think, 6'6", 345 pounds, 21 years old, Deon Walker is more than capable of playing that A-gap or just playing that interior defensive line position in a 4-3 defensive scheme. This is a big body dude who has some solid athleticism to him, and yes, we're getting him later on in the draft class, but I want to point out one thing. At the beginning of last year, when this draft class was being talked about, Deon Walker was a player that had first-round projections. I mean, in 2023, he played in 13 games, had 8 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, and 39 hurries from the middle and 1 batted pass at 6'6", 345 pounds. This was somebody last year, when this draft class was being talked about, like I said, that had first-round projections. So he still, in my personal opinion, has a lot of potential, but the high pad level, the engaging with his body instead of his arms, the inconsistent motor, for a guy that's his size, he gets stood up and kind of just doesn't fight that well through blocks when I watch him on film against the run. I still think, minus all those things I said, 21 years old, 6'6", 345, has solid athleticism, could still develop and definitely fix those things that I was just talking about. The sky's the limit with a guy like Deon Walker. To me, though, he's definitely a boom or bust player, especially because of the techniques and things he does when engaging with offensive linemen. But if the Packers could teach him how to engage more with his hands, could teach him some better technique, could teach him to play lower to the ground in terms of pad level, this is somebody who could be a monster in the middle for this interior defensive line. So with this pick, we are going with Deon Walker, the defensive lineman from Kentucky. So here we are, pick 124 for the Green Bay Packers, and with this pick, I am going to go with another edge, and that is Baron Sowell, the edge from Texas. He is very solid, man, 6'4", 260. I like his frame. I like his height for this defensive scheme. Is somebody who I think still has a lot more to unlock as a pass rusher. I think he's somebody who has a really good frame and just arm length in general for the position. This year had 9 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and 21 hurries and 1 batted pass. The previous year, 3 sacks, 12 hits, and 24 hurries. This team could definitely just use more edge rushers. I know I drafted James Pierce Jr., who would probably be a starter and the day one starter for this team at the edge position and a game record, but they could definitely add more guys in terms of like talent in this edge room for the Green Bay Packers. We have Brenton Cox, we have Rashawn Gary, we have Kingsley Navarro, we have LVN, but we could definitely add some more guys into that room. Some guys that have legit juice and speed off the edge, and I think Baron Sowell, although he's not like the most explosive and quickest off the line, he definitely offers some speed and juice that we don't necessarily have in that room right now. And along with James Pierce Jr., who I did draft in this mock draft, who had some legit speed. So with this pick, we are going with Baron Sowell, the edge from Texas, who does get drafted 13% by Packers fans when they make mock drafts. So here we are, pick 154, and I'm going to go with another wide receiver, and that is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. I don't know if he's really on the Packers' radar, man, but I hope he is, because I have got 2 Kyle Williams film, and I've fully watched all of his All-22, and I could say with confidence, this dude is a steal. He's a baller, man. He's a sleeper in this year's draft class. He's a route runner on all 3 levels. He's very route savvy. Just a very smart route runner. Knows when to tempo his routes against zone coverage. Just make himself available for his quarterback. 6 foot, 186 pounds. And this is why I don't know if he's on the Packers' radar because of the height and weight. But For a guy his size, man, he really does play bigger than just 6 foot. He's a natural hands catcher, has the ability to jump out of the gym and high point the football, hence the 62.5 contested catch rate this year. And in 2024, man, he had a very productive year, man. Had 70 receptions on 101 targets for 1,196 yards, 17.1 yards/receptions, and 14 touchdowns. The prior year had 61 catches for 842 yards and 6 touchdowns. So those are back-to-back very productive years. Like I said, because of the height and weight, I don't know if he's on the Packers' radar, man, but I really do hope he is, because if we can't get a guy like a Trey Harris or a Jaden Higgins early on, and we have to rely on, or we have to go with like a Jalen Royals in the mid rounds in round 3, and we have to get one of these wide receivers in like the 5th or 4th round, Kyle Williams would be the guy I'd run to the podium and get, because he's a savvy route runner, very good releases off the line of scrimmage, hands catcher, has the ability to high point the football, has the ability to make guys miss after the catch. Like, he is really an underrated player in this year's draft class. And if anybody has not heard about Kyle Williams and you're watching this video, I truly recommend going on Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is, and watching some highlights. So with this pick, we are going to Kyle Williams, the wide receiver from Washington State. So here we are at 159, and I want to get another cornerback for this team. Like I said, we lost Corey Ballantyne, and we could definitely just add more depth. And O'Donnell Fortune is a guy I really do like in the 5th round, or even of the beginning of the 6th round for the Green Bay Packers. Has the height and weight to play on the boundary. 6'1", 185 pounds, is older at 23 years old, but he's a guy that has the length, has the physicality to play in press, but he's a very zone coverage cornerback. And if you know anything about this defense for the Green Bay Packers last year, we played a lot of zone coverage. I want to say we played in the top 5 or 6% in terms of zone coverage. So getting a guy that's very good in zone coverage, that's very lengthy, very physical, has some good ball skills, and O'Donnell Fortune, very solid pickup right here. I would say he needs to work on his run defense. His tackling is not that great. He's not a guy that I'd expect to come up there and blow up a bubble screen or get off a block to blow up a screen or anything like that, but is a guy that can play the flats, play zone coverage, drive on the football in a short area distance, or just make some plays in general. So with this pick, we are going with O'Donnell Fortune, who did allow 31 receptions on 53 targets this year for 355 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and a pass rating of 61.4. So with this pick, we are going with more cornerback depth and O'Donnell Fortune. So when I was editing this video, I realized I did not make my recording for when I selected Zeke Biggers at 198 for the Green Bay Packers. Just another big body defensive lineman for this team. Could really take that, role, or do that role that TJ Slaton was doing for the Green Bay Packers. Zeke Biggers is 6'6", 320 pounds. He's not really a pass rusher from the interior. He's not going to be nothing like that, but he's going to be a big body guy that takes up space, takes up blocks for the linebackers and for the opposing, or for the other guys, I meant to say, on the defense, so they can make plays. Just really taking up that TJ Slaton role of playing the A-gap. So that is what I went with at pick 198, was with Zeke Biggers from Georgia Tech. And finally, to end this mock draft, we're just going to go with more interior offensive line depth, or just offensive line depth in general. And that is Joe Huber, the guard from Wisconsin. I've drafted this guy mostly in all my mock drafts now. Just like the versatility with him in the later rounds. Has played right guard, has played left guard, and has played left tackle. Is in the height and weight ratio for the Green Bay Packers at 6'5", 310 pounds. Just like him towards the end of the rounds for more depth. We've seen what happened in that Philadelphia Eagles game when Alkin Jenkins got hurt. We weren't able to keep the same high-level play in terms of pass protection for Jordan Love. So with this pick, we're just going to get more depth on that offensive line. It never hurts to get more guys on that in the trenches. So with this pick, we are going with Joe Huber, the guard from Wisconsin. So here is what PFF has graded my mock draft, and I'm not going to lie, I think this is a very solid mock draft. Our first pick, we did go James Pierce Jr., that's an A+, he's a game wrecker. I'd love him on this team despite the character concerns. Next pick was Benjamin Morrison. He could definitely be that franchise cornerback, still 21 years old, doesn't necessarily have to start day one for the Packers, could just develop more in terms of technique. Really like that pick right there. Jalen Royals was our next pick. He's going to be that deep vertical threat that we need. He's explosive with and without the ball in his hands. Deion Walker, 6'6", 345 pounds, could be that interior monster from that defensive line that we need. Baron Sawyer was our next pick, and he's just more depth at the edge position, but I do like him a lot in the 4th round. He's somebody that has some juice off the edge and some really good speed to power and just power in general. Kyle Williams was our next pick, and if you have not heard of Kyle Williams, I promise, going on YouTube or Twitter, looking up Kyle Williams clips, I would not disappoint you. He is a phenomenal player. He's a sleeper in this year's draft class. I hope he's on the Packers' radar because he's somebody who I think could win a one-on-one against man coverage. O'Donnell Fortune was our next pick at 159. That's a B. Really good zone coverage cornerback. Plays the boundary primarily. 6'1", 190-ish pounds. Just feels like a Packers pick. Zeke Biggers, 6'6", 320 pounds. Could be that TJ Slaton replacement and play that A gap. And then Joe Huber was our final pick. We got to see for that just more offensive line depth. We're in the top 36% of Packers picks or Packers mock drafts, and our overall draft grade was an A-. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about this draft right here. I think it's a very solid one. Like I said earlier, I would have really liked to match Jalen Royals and Trey Harris together in this mock draft and give us some legit wide receivers, but it is what it is. I think this is still a very solid mock draft, and I'm happy with the way it turned out. It's been your boy Sports Culture. I'm out.